For shoppers who are looking for an affordable, efficient, and practical car, it can be quite a daunting challenge, especially if you're somebody who doesn't want to buy a crossover, because the midsize sedan market has shrunk quite a bit. But Honda has stayed very committed to the Accord throughout the years, and for this generation has changed very extensively, not only when it comes to the exterior, but also the interior as well. But also, as we've talked quite a bit on this channel, that Honda is really incentivizing you to go in the hybrid direction. And we see that with the Accord, but also the CR-V as well. But if you're somebody who is strictly looking at buying a car at around $30,000, you want the technology features, you want the efficiency, but also you want a car that's fun to drive, well, the Honda Accord EX might be the perfect solution, but also the perfect fit for you. And in this video, we're going to go over everything about the 2024 Honda Accord. Check out the exterior, the interior, check out the features that it's offering, take it out for a test drive, and also see why, if you are looking at buying a midsize sedan right now, heading into 2024, then maybe taking a look at the Accord might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I'd like to thank Atamian Honda in Tewksbury, Massachusetts, for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Honda inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. With affordable cars few and far between, the midsize sedan market has become a viable option for those who don't necessarily need a subcompact or compact crossover for daily use, as their primary desires in a vehicle is fuel efficiency, reliability, and now in the 2020s, a modern and comfortable interior. The Honda Accord for 2024 can easily check off these boxes, with this generation putting far more emphasis on refinement and going slightly more upscale than in the past. Receiving praise from journalists, the Accord has quickly become a top choice in this market, but with the ability to opt for a hybrid model, is an LX or EX worth considering? Starting off with pricing, the Honda Accord EX comes in at just under $30,000, and for 2024 will be the top trim for the non-hybrid model. What's become evident with this generation compared to Accords of the past is that Honda is heavily leaning towards hybrid technology. And while we've noticed the incentive to choose a Sport or EXL, the EX is a solid choice in its own right, mostly due to its affordability, but also what it's offering to consumers on a stricter budget. With Honda wrestling with the evolving demands consumers have in this segment, whether that be in the form of technology, comfort, or efficiency, they've been able to balance all of this in a gas-powered sedan that's also economical for shoppers not willing to go above the EX trim. Drawing a lot of attention for this generation is the vast departure in design for the Accord, adopting a less assuming front fascia, with cosmetic elements being taken from the CR-V. Maybe not so apparent at first glance, the Accord isn't merely a larger Civic, as Honda is subtly repurposing this sedan as it takes steps towards electrification, but also introducing some luxurious elements into the mix that buyers will notice when stepping into the interior. With smoother body lines and the only distinctive aesthetic features being the triangular grille design and LED headlights, Honda is making the distinction between the Accord and Civic very clear. Moving over to the side profile, the EX will be sitting on 17-inch alloy wheels, and for those concerned about on-road comfort, we found this trim to be less firm compared to the Sport Hybrid we featured earlier in the year, which uses 19-inch tires. For this generation, Honda added some rigidity to the chassis, improving the suspension and on-road demeanor of this sedan, where drivers won't be getting thrown around or feeling the jolts when traveling on streets with uneven pavement. You'll have body color heated side mirrors, and while you won't have turn signal indicators, the EX does come equipped with blind spot detection. Then as we make our way to the final third of the Accord, Honda has certainly scaled back on the sharp body lines, including the Sportback C-pillars, where the sedan has kind of lost the dynamic and streamlined road presence compared to its predecessor, as the Civic Si and Type R have taken the role as being the aggressive and youthful car in the lineup. With the Accord now being a matured and primarily hybrid vehicle for the 2020s, it only makes sense to be wearing a reserved and neutral design. Under the hood, the EX is powered by a 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 192 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with a CVT. While on paper that doesn't sound all that impressive, and just by taking a glance at the higher trims, you get the feeling that Honda is enticing you to go up market for the hybrid, the full gas-powered model is a worthy choice, as the relatively high torque figures get you up to speed in a respectable manner. With most competitors utilizing a similar powertrain and transmission, the Accord will not feel out of the ordinary, and in fact, when entering highways or accelerating off the line, this sedan was anything but lethargic. Just like in the past, no all-wheel drive for this model, so you may want to consider the CR-V if versatility is a priority. For fuel economy, you're looking at right around 29 miles per gallon in the city and 37 miles per gallon on the highway. As we transition to the interior, this is where Honda has really transformed their brand, and more specifically, the Accord, as the dashboard layout and technology resembles vehicles that are in a different price bracket. Despite the EX coming equipped with the smaller 10-inch touchscreen, which isn't as in-depth as what you'll experience with the Sport Hybrid trim and above with the upgraded 12-inch display, the quick access buttons mounted just beneath the screen and physical dials for the volume and tuning will certainly be more user-friendly compared to what we're beginning to see from rivals. Of course, this head unit provides Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility, and as always, you'll have a rear backup camera with trajectory. But more noteworthy has to be the full digital gauge cluster that not only showcases a list of information, but also you can customize this display to your liking by individually changing each dial by using the buttons mounted on the steering wheel. For most cars in the mainstream midsize sedan segment, rivals are still utilizing analog instrument displays, consequently pushing Honda to the forefront in regards to interior technology, especially at $30,000. For the EX, you're greeted by heated cloth seats, with the driver's side having power adjustability, and on our model, we have the optional gray interior color that brightens up the cabin quite a bit. While some of you may feel that leather upholstery will be a more suitable choice, these seats are surprisingly comfortable and supportive. Also coming standard is dual zone climate control, with the dials and buttons being found beneath the user interface. As you make your way towards the center console, you will have a cubby for a smartphone, with a wireless phone charging pad only being offered on the Touring Hybrid. However, you will have two USB-C inputs. Near the gear shifter, you'll have the button that activates Eco Mode to help maximize fuel efficiency of this sedan. For the center storage compartment, there'll be an ample amount of room for a smartphone or wallet. And rounding out the front seating area, above will be a power moonroof, which lets in a lot of natural light to the interior. As we take a look at the second row seating area, I want to point out one thing. The last time I had featured this generation Honda Accord, I had really focused heavily on the driving dynamics, the technology, and also the fact that that model was a hybrid. And I completely overlooked the intangibles that this car is offering and why it's better than its predecessor, but also why it's far and away better than its closest rivals. Now, of course, the family sedan market has shrunk quite a bit. There's not as many rivals in this market. However, the Accord still goes head-to-head with the Toyota Camry, the Nissan Altima, Volkswagen Passat, and Chevrolet Malibu. And for passengers in the back, they're going to get right around 41 inches of legroom, which, to put that into perspective, is about 2 inches more than the Toyota Camry and almost 5 inches more than the Nissan Altima. If you're somebody who refuses to buy a crossover, you don't want to buy the CR-V, you want to buy a sedan, you like the car-like driving dynamics, you're going to love the Accord, but also you won't look any further than what the Accord is offering, because this is really the most practical and family-friendly sedan you're going to find right now on the market. Now, for myself at around 5'5", I'm more than comfortable back here. Also, a bit surprising, I'm usually someone who likes leather seats, but these cloth seats, the upholstery, feels very premium and also provides a lot of support as well. Then moving on to the center seat, this is where it gets a bit interesting, because for some cars in this class, it will be quite the squeeze trying to fit in that third person. But for the Accord, you have some great placements for your feet. The center hump is pretty aggressive, so keep that in mind. However, that won't take away from legroom and shoulder room. On shorter drives, I think you could squeeze in a smaller child or a smaller adult, making this vehicle very family friendly, but also perfect if you are somebody who just goes on shorter trips and has a shorter commute. Because maybe if you're going on a errand run with some friends, you can definitely squeeze everyone in here for sure. And then finally, taking a look at the driver's side, I did adjust the seat a bit further back. It's also on a recline. And once again, it's not really taking away from my comfort at all. So I think buyers are definitely going to love what this vehicle is providing. Now, of course, you're not going to have the soft touch materials on the door panels or where the armrest is, but that's not something I would expect for an EX. Now, not too surprising, you're not going to have two rear air vents for the center console for the second row seating area, nor are you going to have a USB or USB-C input. However, you do get a center armrest with two cup holders. Now, coming around to the back, the practicality continues for the Honda Accord. But before we open up this trunk, you can either use the latch right here like a traditional sedan, or just press and hold on the key fob. And inside, behind the second row seat, you're looking at right around 16.7 cubic feet of room, which once again outclasses the Camry, the Subaru Legacy, the Volkswagen Passat, and Nissan Altima. There's plenty of room back here where you can store items. I was able to fit all my camera gear, so it's 3 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod, and still had extra room for groceries or maybe even some travel cases as well if I was going on a road trip. So if you are somebody that is planning on doing some road trips this winter or next summer, you'll be able to fit, I'd say, 5, 6, possibly 7 bags of luggage back here, making the Accord still very family friendly. And then of course, with the second row seats full, you'll have extra room for some longer items. So maybe if you're moving some furniture around, you can definitely do so with this car. Better yet, with the Accord is that even though it is a sedan, it is deceptively wide back here. So you are gonna have some side pockets for some smaller items. You could probably fit a couple jugs of waters, some car detail equipment, or maybe even a first aid kit. Then beneath the floor mat, you are going to find a spare tire. So if you do encounter a flat on your road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. And now, for the moment we've all been waiting for, let's take the 2024 Honda Accord EX out for a test drive. So a reoccurring theme with Honda right now is maturity. You see that with the Civic, the CR-V, and the Accord. And what I really love about this generation is that for a car that would be seen as economical, there's a lot of refinement. And as we start off this test drive getting on the highway, I'm a bit surprised at the acceleration of this car, because I've always said that going hybrid for this generation, whether it is the Accord or the CR-V, is the better choice, because the eCVT mimics the gear shifts far better than the CVT that's paired with this 1.5. But personally, having experienced this car for around 15 to 20 minutes so far, I really love what it's offering when it comes to the performance. Now, of course, it's not going to be a barnstormer. It's not going to be a car that's really going to push you back in your seat. But when you are going highway speeds, it really feels very secure and planted on the roadways, but also you're not really getting a lot of that wind noise and road noise entering the cabin. It feels very well insulated for an EX trim, which to me really goes a long way, because when you're spending around $30,000, of course, you're not getting the best interior refinement. You're not going to get the best interior materials. And for cars placed on the more affordable side of the lineup, this to me is really impressive. Heading into these corners, steering is relatively firm for a Japanese car. It is a bit light, but very direct, which is exactly what I want to see in this market, but also for a sedan. A lot of cars in this segment and this price range, not really the most enjoyable, but the Accord right now is definitely raising my eyebrows for sure. What you're also going to like too is that when it comes to this engine, this powertrain and transmission, there's really not that much droning. There's a lot of quietness with this engine, which is not something I was anticipating walking into the full gas-powered review for the Honda Accord. Going over some of the bumps and imperfections, the suspension handles them quite well. There's a lot of softness to the suspension, and as a commuter, that's really all you could ask for. Now, I think a lot of people have questioned, why did Honda go in this more reserved direction for this generation? Why did they drop the V6? Why is there no manual? Why is this car a bit more on the neutral side of things, not only when it comes to the interior, but also the exterior as well? And I think a lot of it is because Honda is banking on buyers going in the Civic Si or Type R direction. If you're somebody who wants that manual transmission, you want that sports tune suspension, you're going to go with the Si or the Type R. And I think Honda's really trying to consolidate now, and you see that with the CR-V, especially with the trim levels, where they're really pushing buyers to go in the hybrid direction more so than purchasing a full gas-powered model. And it really comes with the performance as well. I think that the 2-liter is better when it comes to straight line speed. Also, of course, as I mentioned before, the eCVT I think is better than what you get here with the 1.5. However, if you're somebody who doesn't really care about purchasing a hybrid trim and you still want to buy a full gas-powered model, I think you're going to find yourself quite complacent with this car. If you're not somebody who's going to go full throttle, go pedal to the metal, you're going to like the smoother accelerations of this car. Obviously, with it being a CVT, there will be some droning. But for urban or suburban driving, this is more than adequate, more than sufficient for most consumers. What they're also going to love too is that even for a car priced at $30,000, it does feel somewhat premium. Now, honestly, I am somebody who would prefer going all out. Get the top trim, get a well-equipped model, get something that looks sporty, sleek, and exciting. But for $30,000, you're getting quite a bit of features. I love the full digital gauge cluster, very high quality, but also the fact that you can customize it is pretty great to see in this price range. But also the 10.2-inch touchscreen. Now, of course, it's not as in-depth as a 12-inch touchscreen that you see on higher trims, but it definitely gets the job done. But also, if you're somebody that just wants to plug in your smartphone and use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, this is giving you more than enough. Also worth mentioning, since the Honda Accord will be your daily driver if you choose the EX, is that the cloth seats are pretty comfortable. They provide a good amount of support. They're not aggressively bolstered, but they do feel pretty premium. And even though I'm somebody who typically would prefer a higher quality upholstery, this definitely gives you the quality you're looking for at around 30 grand. Now, since I am at a red light, might as well go over the vision that we have here to work with the Honda Accord. A-pillars are super thin. You will not have blind spots when you are approaching intersections like I'm at right now. Then taking a look at your side mirrors, you do get blind spot detection on the EX, and also they are decently sized so I can see what's in my blind spots. And then looking out back, the headrests really aren't in the way at all, so I can see the person directly behind me. You have a lot of vision here for a sedan. So that's where you are going to notice the droning. It's not going to mimic the gear shifts, and that's why I would say go with the eCVT and the hybrid. But from a straight line performance perspective, this is going to give you more than enough if you are somebody that's just getting on the highway or passing those slower drivers. Now, you're probably wondering how the Honda Accord compares to its closest rivals, domestic rivals such as the Camry, the Altima, and the Subaru Legacy. And from an on-road perspective, what I'm going to say here is that the Accord definitely feels more upscale and classier than the Camry, the Legacy, and also the Nissan Altima. Now, I think buyers are definitely going to love the fact that with the newer technology, this is better than what you're going to find from Subaru, because Subaru does not give you a full digital gauge cluster. What you're also going to like too is that the user interface is easier to use as well. You don't have that massive infotainment system, but also everything is within arm's reach, and you still have physical buttons and dials for the dual zone climate control. Compared to the Camry, now of course the Camry doesn't use a CVT, but again, it really comes down to the fact that that car is getting a bit old, and you certainly feel that when it comes to the driving experience, but also even just the interior as well. It feels as though that for its price point, you should be getting a bit more. And then for the Altima, again, I think the Altima lacks from the technology. And also the thing too is that it's not going to be the most enjoyable, especially with the CVT, where Honda's done a pretty good job with this transmission, where I don't feel as though that I'm going to complain on a longer drive or on a daily commute. Really going to be buying this car for its practicality, its fuel efficiency, but also the fact that for 2024, it's far and away more family friendly than its closest rival. So I think just from a fundamental standpoint, from the intangibles, This is really where the Honda Accord, I think, is really class leading, because you're not going to find that with other vehicles in this market, and you will be making some concessions, but also some sacrifices if you do go with the rivals. And if you are somebody that is willing to spend $35,000 or $40,000, you're really going to love what this car is giving you on the higher end. But then again, if you are somebody that really wants to stay around $30,000, I think the EX is more than enough. So one more time, getting on the highway, got no one in front of us, so we'll be able to see what this engine is capable of. I definitely love the steering feel as well. There is some body roll here. As I said, the suspension is very soft, tuned for comfort more than sport. And I've safely merged on the highway. What is interesting though, is that when this powertrain is paired with the CR-V, I feel like the CR-V is better with the hybrid because it does feel a bit slow. But for the Accord, I'm not feeling that. I don't feel as though I need to really get into the throttle to move this car. And I don't feel like there's this anxiety where if I'm coming up on my exit, I won't be able to make it because this car won't have the power to get me into the next lane or to pass the slower drivers. And yet, it's pretty spry. It's pretty enjoyable. And I think that's really all you could ask for. And this, to me, does create a bit of a dilemma because, as I talked about earlier on in the year, I would prefer going with the hybrid. And while I still would lean in that direction, I think this is more of a toss-up than I originally thought. Because this car does give you the perfect amount of power. I would like to see something close to, 220 or 250, just being an enthusiast. But as a commuter, as a daily driver, and especially for somebody who is just looking for a car to get them to point A to point B, I really don't know what else you could possibly want in a car with this powertrain. For those who do go on longer drives, maybe you do go on road trips a couple times throughout the year, go with the hybrid because you'll be able to maximize that fuel range. But as a car that you're going to be driving Monday through Friday, going to work, dropping off the kids at school, I think this is a very comfortable and family-friendly car. So to quickly wrap up my time with the 2024 Honda Accord EX, what are my final thoughts and takeaways for this midsize sedan? Really, it's all about the intangibles, because we could argue whether you should go with the hybrid over a gas-powered model all day, but that really comes down to what you're looking for in a daily driver. Personally, I do like the hybrid trims. I like the eCVT more than the regular CVT. But if you're somebody who has a very strict budget and you don't want to spend over $30,000, the Honda Accord EX is very well equipped for its price point. But also, for this generation, it's all about the maturity and the refinement. Honda has always focused heavily on the intangibles, but also really the fundamentals, by being economical, by being affordable, efficient, and practical. But this generation just feels, to me, that it's a bit more than that, that it's almost entry-level luxury, like even for an EX. Now, of course, we have cloth seats, but it just feels really high quality in here, and I think that's really enhanced by the dashboard layout. It just feels very classy and upscale for a $30,000 car, and you don't really want to leave the cabin of this vehicle, which I think really goes a long way for what Honda is doing right now in the 2020s. Also, of course, a full digital gauge cluster for an EX trim, that's fantastic. But also the driving dynamics too. The way this car has been engineered, it just performs very smoothly, especially with its suspension, but also just the handling as well. It's a great daily driver and commuter vehicle, and what Honda has done is really built off of that and given you a more well-rounded vehicle that you can drive with your family in the car. Now, of course, you can cross-shop the Accord with the Toyota Camry for hours, maybe throw in the Volkswagen Passat or Nissan Altima, but I do believe you will be coming back to the Accord just because of what it's giving you. And of course, when it comes to the design, because I know a lot of people have talked about how they've gone a bit more neutral with their body lines, Honda has never really been a brand that you would really focus on the striking elements to the exterior. It's really everything else that comes along with it. And Honda just really doubled down on that for this generation. That's why I think that at the end of the day, when you take a look at what this car is offering on paper, but also when you do get behind the wheel, there's just a lot to work with here that at around $30,000 you won't find elsewhere. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.